So then I said to him, hey man, Dynasty's not that bad of a set. I mean, at least it gave us gold tokens. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll be here all week. So I don't know if you've heard, but apparently Dynasty isn't the most powerful set that we've ever received in Flesh and Blood. Although considering Tales of Aria, I don't know if that's exactly a bad thing. But I also don't think it's the most fair assessment of Dynasty because about a year ago, people were saying the exact same thing about Everfest. And I don't know if you guys have looked at that set, but yeah. There were a lot of cards in that set that at their release didn't really do anything, and as more sets came out, they ended up being very powerful and desirable. And I think the exact same thing is gonna happen with Dynasty, where in a year from now, you're gonna be sitting there like, how much was that card again? $20? That card used to be like 50 cents, what the fuck? So in order to avoid that scenario, I wanna go over my top 5 cards from Dynasty that I think are absolute sleeper cards. So with that, let's jump right into the list. But before we jump right into the list, I do have one honorable mention, and that is Crown of Dominion. Now, I have this as the honorable mention because a lot of people are already starting to pick up on the fact that this crown is pretty good, and people are brewing royal decks around it to run things like cash-in. Royal Kasai is cracked, by the way. But I wanted to mention it because quite frankly, I think the card is going to be way stronger than we think it is. It gives you a whole subtype to your hero, and we only have a few cards that do anything with Royal, and I very much expect that we will see more in the future. Quite frankly, the card is $50 right now, and I really want to point out it is a generic helm. This will not stay this cheap for very long. Okay, but finally moving on to the actual list, we have number 5, and that is Looming Doom. This 3-cost Runeblade non-attack action card trades your current rune chant stack for slower but more powerful damage in the future. Eating all of your yummy magical snacks, this card allows you to fire 2 arcane at any target at the beginning of each of your end phases until it runs out of counters. Now, this effect, name, and card art are all perfectly on theme, but it doesn't really seem all that powerful right now. At the moment, Viserai isn't exactly the most powerful hero in the format, and even Briar decks that are running Revel and Runeblood are aggro decks. They're not looking to trade those rune chants for later damage. But against slower heroes like Oldhim and Iyslander, I can see this card being very, very good. Also, I just found out when editing this that if you've triggered rune chants and you play Looming Doom at instant speed with something like Spellbound Creepers, you actually keep the original damage on the chain. Apparently rune chants once triggered don't need to remain on the field for their triggers to stay, and so you're able to put a bunch of arcane on the stack, activate your Spellbound Creepers, play the Looming Doom at instant speed, eat up those rune chants, put the counters on it, and you're still keeping the original damage. Now obviously this isn't just a testament to the power of Looming Doom, it's also a testament to the power of Spellbound Creepers, but Looming Doom is still a really, really good card. Also, it's a Majestic that has an extended art version. And LSS aren't idiots. They aren't going to give an extended art version to a Majestic card that will never be playable. And considering both copies of this card are very cheap right now, if you're a Runeblade player, I would highly recommend picking them up. But on to number 4, we have Deadeye. This 1-cost Ranger non-attack action card boosts your next arrow by 3, and if it has an aim counter, it lets you rip a card from your opponent's hand if it hits. Up until now, aim counters haven't done a whole lot, but I guarantee you this will change with Outsiders. Like, I will eat my copies of Silver Palms if they don't do more with this mechanic, and I won't even peel them. I'll eat them skin and all. Ranger might be an inconsistent class, but they have some of the best on-hit triggers in the game. And with Poison the Tips already existing, I could really see a very hand control heavy Azalea deck being pretty good. Not that it'll be a fun time with that type of a deck becoming popular with Ice Lexi already existing, but you know. But in all honesty, looking at your opponent's hand and you being able to choose what card they discard is incredibly powerful. There is no way that this card will not mess with whatever it is your opponent is doing, whether forcing them to block or by being able to rip out their best piece. And keep in mind, Rangers have access to Rain Razor, so you can pump this arrow up to make sure it hits at instant speed. Now, this one is definitely a card that people already have their eyes on, being about $4, but I honestly expect it to spike when Outsiders does release, so if you want to play Ranger, I would recommend getting them now. And then we have number 3 on the list, and it is Mr. Dead as a Doornail himself, the Emperor. This card has been a bit panned by the community at first because people were upset that they printed a hero at legendary rarity, and then people were upset because that legendary ended up being like $15, $20. But honestly, I think the Emperor is a bit more powerful than people are giving him credit for. I don't know if he's the best hero in Blitz, but you get access to 2 different classes, a talent, and generics. Yes, he's limited to reds, but with that wide of a card pool, does it really matter? And if you're sitting across from the Emperor, what armor do you even choose? Do you play all Null Rune to stop the arcane damage, or do you put some melee defense equipment, or do you do a mix of both? It doesn't really matter because whatever one that you're using, the Emperor could just play around. If you have a lot of Null Rune, they'll just send their melee attacks at you, and if you're not playing Null Rune, that's when they'll send a spell at your face. Lightning Bolt! And I know he only starts at 15 health, but that's also kind of a lie. Between cards like Arcanite Skullcap, Flamescale Furnace, and Braveforge Bracers, you will have a lot more health than just that starting 15. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, Daddy Emperor is a lot better than we think he is, and if you have any interest in playing him in Blitz, again, you might want to get him now. Moving on to the number 2 card, we have one that I personally really despise, and it's Buckle. This 3-cost Guardian non-attack action gives your next Guardian attack +1, Dominate, and the ability, when this hits a hero, destroy an equipment they control with a -1 counter on it. What did Flamescale Furnace ever do to anybody? All it's doing is generating a bit of extra resources and making some ash so we can summon some scaly boys. Like, who doesn't like dragons? In all seriousness, equipment is very powerful in Flesh and Blood, and there are a lot of key pieces that have Battle Worn or Temper, meaning you can block with them, and then they still stick around. And as time goes on, we're only going to get more and more equipment pieces that are integral to certain heroes' strategies. Going back to Flamescale Furnace for a moment, let's say that Dromai gets some new support and does ascend to S tier in the classic constructed format. Guardian decks will likely want to run 3 copies of this in the sideboard for that specific matchup, because if you pop that Flamescale Furnace, you leave Dromai in a very tough position. And while I don't see this being applicable in every meta, I do think that every once in a while when there is a hero that has a very specific equipment that makes the deck work, Guardians are going to want to play this in their sideboard, so it's a good idea to get your copies now. Just don't use it against me, please. And then we move on to my number 1 sleeper card in Dynasty, and unlike Buckle, I actually love this card, and it's Soraya. This Light Illusionist non-attack action, wow, I really did just choose all non-attack actions for this, didn't I? Is an invocation that trades a Spectral Shield for Soraya, Arcane Herald. I mean Archangel of Knowledge. That's a bit of a whoopsie-doopsie. It costs 2 to play and 2 to attack with, so it is a little greedy, but what do you get for that? Well, it attacks for 4, plus Arcane if you have cards in Soul. It heals you for whatever damage it deals. It takes 4 damage to kill, and even if your opponent wants to attack you instead of it wards for 4, so it basically just gains you even more life. This card offers up so much value, it's not even funny. And the only reason it doesn't see widespread play right now is because the only place you can play it is in Prism in Blitz. However, it's been confirmed that at some time this year, we are getting a new Light Illusionist hero, so we will be seeing this playable in CC again. Now this angel does suffer from the same issues that the legendary dragons do, and that being a one of means that you might not get it out every game, but that doesn't mean that decks won't run it and it won't have a huge impact when it does land. In fact, this card immediately messes up whatever your opponents are trying to do because they have to answer it. When you swing with it, it either forces blocks or again, you gain a bunch of life for hitting them, and then they have to deal with the fact that it's still on the field. They don't want it sticking around for multiple turns because the value you will get out of it is absolutely insane. Right now, this legendary angel, yes, I want to remind you, this is a legendary card, is like $20 to $25. So if you're looking to play Illusionist in the future, what the hell are you doing watching this video? You've got a card to go buy. Go on, get! If you liked this video and want to help support me, consider either becoming a channel member or checking out my Patreon. There are different levels of bonuses like early access to videos, signed cards, and even custom hero cards. And to those who are already supporting me, you have my deepest and most honest appreciation. It's because of all of you that I can continue to put in the work to bring the best content I possibly can to the chadliest community in the TCG space. Thank you, my friends.